Joey here as the Critical Missourian, and something that I had been reminded of is the 2018 incident where a group of people had organized a rally to feed the homeless in Kansas City. But however, the health department decided that it was an unsafe venture, confiscated the food in the sting, and then destroyed it with bleach. So this incident kind of gave me a thought about how we need to have more discussion about the homeless, because there's a lot of misconceptions, misunderstandings, sorry about that, and there is a problem with discrimination against the homeless. Let me start with the fact that that the big misconceptions in today's societies that the homeless are of their own choice, or they are hooked on drugs, or there's I can go on and on with other misconceptions. Like, people always say that they are going to attack you, or they're creating hundreds of problems for everybody. The thing is, that the homeless don't always choose to be in the circumstances they are. Not all of them are going to commit crimes. Not all of them a lot of them are not there by choice. The economics of this country is running right now. It's very hard for just bare bones income to afford rent, plus food, plus utilities, everything else. In some corners of the country is so ungodly expensive that being homeless is the only option. And because the economic situation, them leaving the area is almost difficult. I'm for sure if someone was given an opportunity to pick up and move somewhere where there is more opportunity at a lower where there's a lower cost of living, I'm for sure they would choose that than being homeless on the street. And yes, I'm going to address the elephant in the room, that there are some homeless that are on the street because they're addicted to drugs. There are some that are they're there because of mental illness, and there are. But the number of those cases are a little bit smaller than those who are who are homeless because of economic difficulties at this time. Someone who's imagine an average everyday guy he's a hard-working factory worker, and comes in one day and find out that the place he's been working in for many years has decided to close its doors permanently. Now you have a situation where his final paycheck now has to cover rent and utilities, food, and till he could find another job. And the sad thing is that unemployment insurance may not cover those expenses long enough for to find a stable a replacement job, especially in areas of the country where the economy is kind of depressed in that area, where finding a job is not as quickly done as other areas. I mean, some areas have an abundance of enough jobs where if you could quit one job, you can find another one within a few days. But there's other areas of the country where you can, as soon as you lose your job, it could take weeks, if not longer, to find a replacement, because there's probably like 10 people for every one job that's open. So if you have 2 people applying for the same job, what's the chances are we going to have there for one person to get that job? I mean, they would have to be able to stand out among all those other applicants. And if the person doesn't have really perfect skills and or find themselves in circumstances like someone that's just come out of prison, there's a big problems with job discrimination there. There's a lot of places that will not hire a recently convicted criminal, and that just leads to them becoming homeless sometimes, and sometimes without any support to get them started. That kind of leads in its own cycle. So if you got a lot of situations like this, I mean, it's very difficult for someone to recover from circumstances like this. Excuse me again. I mean, like I said, you take someone from California who is homeless on the streets, all because they've lost their job, their life situations just deteriorated, not by their own choice. If someone offered them about $2,000 or maybe a few $100s and a really good job in another part of the country, you think that they would stay right there? They would leave in a heartbeat. This is a simple fact. There are other reasons why people become homeless, like for example, life situations, like you or your significant other decide to break up, and you both decide that y'all cannot be in the same house together. The house that you're living in decides to be appropriated by the city for a major project. Your landlord decides to sell the property. I mean, I can go down the many possibilities why someone could be homeless and not be at fault for it. And yet, the biggest problem, the biggest misconception is this society likes to sit here and may claim that people have done this to themselves, and it's not always the case. Like I said, another misconception is that they're dope heads, and they're not. I mean, these are people that are vulnerable and struggling, and life had just dealt them a very crappy hand. And yet, they do, and honestly, America, they don't need people to give them a negative hand on top of what they already have. I mean, sit there and give them negative criticism, calling them lazy bums because they're in their circumstances. Some of them are trying as hard as they can, and yet can't catch a break. It's really a tough life. When you build your life on a flimsy house of cards, it doesn't take much for that to just come down on you. I mean, there's also the problem that we also have is how there is a big problem with discrimination against the homeless. It's like they're always viewed as dirty or causing if they're there, they're going to cause problems, or they are a blight to the city, and they, I mean, they're treated as if they're second-class citizens in some cases, and all they really need is a little more dignity. I mean, the ones that are the ones that are there because it's mental issues is a failing of society to a degree, because we do know. I mean, let's say, for example, officers are not trained to deal with mental issues, so they don't know how to handle somebody that's in this position. That has mental that has that kind of problems. So what resources are there for them to turn to? I mean, if they're like unable to work and they're unfortunately homeless because of their mental state, who's there going to advocate for them? I mean, you can if they don't have family that wants to step up to them, step up for them, and the state is just acting like it's not, that they can't do anything about it or won't do anything about it, then what's left for them? I mean, the thing with people they're facing addiction. I mean, I've heard of people that have broken down because of this, and they have had their whole life destroyed. And yet the problem is that they're treated very poorly because of the addiction. And yet problem is the treatment is kind of expensive. So I mean, it's when you're in an environment that you can't escape from, where where drugs are very commonplace. I mean, how are you going to get clean and keep clean? I mean, that's another thing there. People, I mean, they are crying. Some of them are crying for help, and yet don't know how to pull themselves out. And because of, like I said, environmental issues, they sometimes fall back in the same game again because of that. I mean, it's very. This country has been fighting a war against drugs, and we have never won. It's still ongoing, and unfortunately, we're still no better off. And now we're facing a fentanyl crisis. Not too long ago, it was methamphetamine was a crisis in this country, especially in Missouri. It was a crisis, and now we gotta be scared about something else. And this is proof that we're failing. We're failing to keep from creating the problems to begin with. I mean, if with all the easy, I mean, apparently this country has become an easy target, or a particularly repetitive target by cartels, because the money is here, and if we was to make all the demand disappear in the United States, they would also vanish. They would cease to exist, or they would move on to other areas of the world. But because of the fact that because there's a demand in this country for the stuff, it's still going to keep flowing in. And because all that's flowing in, and we're having trouble controlling it, it's going to be hard to keep from destroying people's lives and bringing them into the circumstances. And it's going to be hard to keep people from relapsing back into their old lives that they're trying to step away from. I mean, people that are trying to step away have a trouble keeping away because it's so omnipresent. I mean, if you're if you live in a crappy neighborhood, and you really don't have the money to move, you're going to have that temptation all around. You might have to. So, I mean, that's one part of the homeless crisis. I mean, as far as that, yeah. I mean, and there's a problem across this country where, like I said, support for the homeless is very limited. I mean, the one thing that's a very big problem is that homeless shelters only have a 90-day limit, and then they have to give that bed to someone else. This does not. I mean, if someone was like tomorrow that was homeless, tomorrow find a new job, and they're in some part of the country where it's going to take quite some time to build up that money to get themselves in a home, and yet it's going to be the time that they've, and it's going to take longer than the 60 to 90-day limits. And what then? I mean, there's not much, if any, intermediary services for people who need longer time period between maybe the 90-day window to a year, maybe 2 years, especially in places where the waiting list for a public house is extremely long. I know many places, let's say, and some of your major cities, their waiting list could very easily range from 1 year to 5 years, depending how much of an emergency or circumstances. I mean, it's a very very much a big problem there. And the fact is, like I said, there's no nothing there's no services to hold people in that meantime while they're waiting. I mean, some can get help from friends and family, but sometimes that's limited. And really, I don't think it's really a long-term solution. And really, I really do think that in this country, we seem to be starting to take a anti-stance against the homeless, because Tennessee has launched laws where if you're a homeless person and you're sleeping in a public place, that now you could get yourself a serious charge. I mean, I hope to God that we do not get this way in Missouri, because I think it is somewhat cruel and inhumane to really attack people because of their unfortunate status, most especially if they're a victim of economics and it's no fault of their own. I mean, and all you're doing is you add more stress to their already difficult lives when you add the police constantly hounding them because of the circumstances. And like I said, services are limited. They can't, imagine this. I mean, welfare system is, unfortunately, can only provide them food services, but sometimes that's only in like a limited amount. I mean, in Missouri, I think it was like $150, and sometimes that don't get too far. You have to do. You would have to think. You would have to eat a slice of bread a day just to even do that. I mean, and problem with yes, and medical services are also a big problem. There's a severe need for medical services for the homeless. Medicaid and Medicaid has a very big limitation there. I mean, if we could expand it for people that are unfortunate, that would be a great that would be a positive thing for them, and prevent the spread of disease among the homeless community. I mean, if you have a large homeless community inside a large metro area, then with limited medical care, without charging them a fortune that they can never pay, I mean, some of them are foregoing medical care, and which that brings disease and other illnesses that could get spread around like wildfire. So I really think that we need to I really think we need to approach the situation with a little more compassion, and think critically on a more viable option. I mean, also, I mean, there's something else that had brought to my attention. It's like, how do you deal with somebody who has just suffered who's been at the same place for a long time, and that was a very unique job. Suddenly the business closed up. So now they have to go back and do retraining. I mean, there are programs out there where you could get retrained to a new job, but they're more likely maybe without an income for the whole time that they're doing the retraining. And yet, some places you'll have to provide for your own shelter, and that also a big problem. I think one time I was told one time that one person was told that he couldn't get the retraining because he couldn't find a more long-term housing solution while he's doing the retraining. So he was left to just go on to just try to look for another job somewhere else. I mean, and that's just what I heard. Now, it does, but anyhow, what I'm trying to summarize here, how this topic is like, we have pretty much don't stop and think about everything. I mean, we've already had seen discrimination, people who are in their situation because of circumstances they didn't choose to be. There's attacks on the homeless versus with the, oh yes, and some things I wanted to add is that yes, there are different types of attacks. Crime is there's attacks of the homeless against homeless. There's attacks against everybody else against the homeless. Wealthy. They really would want to do anything. If you give them an opportunity, they would happily put everyone in a bus and ship them to another town and let it be someone else's problem, because they don't like the looks of having a bunch of homeless people in their high class neighborhood, and they would probably use the police to harass and poke at them to try to get them to leave, so they can get this nice clean neighborhood that they're expecting. Yes, they are pretty much suffering from all ends. You got the core issue, the fact that they don't have a home. Some are suffering from job loss, and finding another job has been very difficult, especially in the economic depressed area. Some of them are facing mental hardship, and the supporting resources are not there to help them out. Again, with the those with drug-related problems, again, the problem it stems to lack of resources, or the stigma, and some of the laws are just not making it very easy. I'm appalled that we are human beings, and we try to look down on other people, and this is not it's not helping. I'm seriously telling you, it is not helping to look down on other people because of their social status. I think, instead of using laws to attack the homeless, start using our politicians to help them. They try to get to the core of what caused the problem, and try to help them solve it and bring more solutions. Like I said, we need more intermediary solutions. Like, if someone's like I said, between the 90-day shelters there are for a limited time to the public housing, there's with the long wait lists, there's got to be an intermediary housing that needs to be created in the society by the government, so that they can get themselves more situated. Sometimes, and like I said, sometimes they need more time than 90 days because of the economic circumstances of the area, and an intermediary housing situation would be a great boon. It would bring, it would keep the streets clean, and it would also reduce the the disease and the trash. I mean, some of this is what I mean. The homeless camps can be a breeding ground for a lot of things. I mean, and I'm not saying that it's I'm not saying it's a bad thing that they bring upon themselves, but it's just something that happens. I mean, but we need to address this more from a more humane level instead of just attacking them. I mean, there are private organizations and non-profit organizations that are trying to help, but unfortunately sometimes their resources are limited and sometimes they get overwhelmed. I mean, sometimes a charity drive may be needed to really help along, or like the effort that was brought, like in Kansas City, where they was doing a kind of like a potluck dinner for the homeless that was done by the people. I mean, this is a fact. This is a fact. I mean, we have more, unfortunately, because of our economic situation, I bet you because of that, there's going to be a whole lot more homeless and a whole lot less resources to go around for everybody too. Especially in the major metro areas. I bet you anything, a lot of these organizations and private, government, non-profit, I bet you they are severely overrun, overwhelmed, and not funded enough to handle the growing crisis. And I would seriously think that this is a time for us to stop, to sit down and have a conversation with our politicians. It's like, stop attacking them with laws. Think of them as if you want yourself to be thought of. Stop thinking that everybody is there because of their own doing, or they're lazy, or something, some other misconception. Just you need to throw that out, because it's dehumanizing. And really think of ways that we could do that could solve issues. Like I said, one, fix the intermediary problem that we have between permanent housing and the shelters. Some kind of intermediary solution is a good idea to check with your government. And I do applaud. There was a I did heard of one nonprofit that was buying like a bunch of building sheds and then converting them into like small one-room housing that provided such idea. I mean, there were intermediary housing that runs in between, that provided a place to stay. They still I think, if memory serves, they still had to pay rent. I mean, that's one way to keep some places like that funded, but keep the rent. But the rent needs to be low enough so they still are saving money, but not so incredibly free that the places have to struggle to find funding. That is an idea that needs to be considered with sometimes maybe private-public collaboration. And really, we need to figure out what to do about to attack the health crisis, more like, and the garbage, and more so, and I think that would make our cities a whole lot better. So I hope this video gives you a few things to think about, but I'm just imploring people, please, 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 please stop treating the homeless like they are second-class citizens. They deserve much better. They deserve to be treated as if they were human too. They are not subclass people. They are not subhuman. They deserve the dignity and respect, despite their economic situation. And please work hard to come up with solutions that puts an end to this situation, and do so in a very humane and positive way that benefits the community, that benefits you, and benefits the homeless. So please have a good day, and please please be considerate when next time you see a homeless person. Thank you.